Okay, so as I am editing this video, I realized that I did not film an intro. So welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Jessica. This page will be all things motherhood, breastfeeding, mommy content, mom tips, play groups, and also I'm gonna feature monthly giveaways. So please feel free to subscribe, like, comment, share, everything you need to do if you enjoy the content. So without further ado, here is the video all about C-sections. Obviously, as you can tell by the title, it is about everything about a C-section, a scheduled C-section, what to expect before, during, and immediately after. As said in my last video, I was planning to have a VBAC. Long story short, I wound up having another C-section, and this one was scheduled. My first one was emergency, so it's a completely different experience, much more calm. And I know that a lot of you, if you found out that it's a good chance you have to have a C-section, or that you're planning to have a C-section, I know that it's a lot of questions and it's very nerve-wracking and blah blah blah. So I hope that these can answer most of your questions and ease your mind. So first things first, what is a C-section? I think we all know, but for those who don't, it is when a baby is cut out of you. Instead of giving vaginal birth, the baby is cut through an incision. It's like the lower abdomen. I think a lot of people think it's like your stomach, but it's really like the top of your groin, below your stomach line, like the low abdomen. And they usually do a transverse cut, so it's like horizontal, like this. A lot of people are used to the old-fashioned ones where they were up and down. They're like this now, very small, can barely see them. You don't have to worry about scarring too much if you have a good doctor. So once your C-section is scheduled, so they'll say, on this day, we're having you come in for surgery. That's it, it's scheduled. They give you a time and a date. They will give you they will have you come to the hospital generally for a few days before for pre-lab work. So I had to go in, for example, my C-section was scheduled on September 9th. So I had to go in a few days prior to do lab work. I had to get a type and screen so they could see my blood type, just in case something happened during surgery and I needed a blood transfusion. They would have that blood ready, know my blood type, so that they can give me a blood transfusion. Also, again, I don't know when you guys are watching this, but if you are watching it when I'm posting it, we're in the middle of COVID, so you had to go in and get a COVID test. Anybody who gets any type of surgery has to go in and get a COVID test to see if they are negative or positive for the coronavirus. I was negative, thank God. So I had to go ahead and get a COVID test, and I also had to get like a CBC, which is a complete blood count, to make sure that my white blood cell count wasn't elevated to indicate any sign of infection. And also they wanted to check my hemoglobin to make sure that it wasn't already low. Hemoglobin is what they check to see if you need a blood transfusion or not. So all of my lab work came back great. So then I was cleared for surgery. So the next thing you have to do is 24 hours before surgery, they give you a surgical soap. It's called a HIPAA cleanse, and it's an antiseptic soap that you wash your entire body with. So for me, it was the night before surgery and the morning of surgery. My surgery was scheduled at 10 a.m. So I had to wash with the HIPAA cleanse in the evening before my surgery. After you wash, you can't put any deodorants, lotions, sprays, oils, anything like that. So your skin will be very dry. But so I washed with it the evening before. I washed with it the morning of, to make sure that we got the majority, as much as the bacteria, off of my skin as possible, so that when they cut into me, it lessens the possibility of infection. So you have to wash with a HIPAA cleanse. The other instructions that you receive the day before surgery is that you cannot eat. So after midnight, I was unable to eat anything. I was NPO is what it's called. Unable to eat, unable to drink. I was allowed to drink until 4 hours before surgery. Only water or clear liquids. No heavy juices or anything like that. So waters and clear liquids I was allowed to drink until 4 hours before. So midnight I wasn't able to eat, and then it was 6 a.m. I was able to drink water. So, I guess. And I actually did wake up like right at 6 a.m. just so I could have a sip of water because I love water and it just was unimaginable to me not to have access to it. So I woke up that morning just to drink some water and I went back to sleep. So, fun fact about me. So now that you've done all of your pre-surgical prep, you've done your lab work, you've done your COVID test if it's still coronavirus, you've washed with your HIPAA cleanse, and you've not eaten. Now it's the day of surgery. You go into the hospital. It's very calming. It's a very easy process. At least it was for me, and I hope it is for everybody else too. You go in, they check in. They actually have you go to labor and delivery, which I was kind of surprised about. I was expecting, I don't know where I was expecting first to go, but they have you go into one of the labor and delivery rooms, like as if you're gonna vaginally deliver, and you strip down. Now, I've already taken 2 HIPAA cleanse baths. Now they gave me HIPAA cleanse wipes, so more antiseptic wipes, and I had to do a wash of my whole body with antiseptic wipes. So I had to do a HIPAA cleanse again. They strip down to a hospital gown. The nurses come in. They start you on IV fluids because you must have a certain amount of IV fluids before you get any type of spinal tap or epidural. So I was there for about 2 hours because they did 2 bags of fluids. So I was there for 2 hours. It was just me and my husband. We were in the room, just kind of watching TV, laying around. I think I took a nap. I took like a 30-minute nap. Then they came in and they actually had me walk to surgery, which I was surprised about. I was expecting to be like wheeled because my last one was a emergency C-section, so I was like rushed wheeled into the surgery room with a on the hospital bed. But this one they had me walk. It was like pleasant. The nurses were like chit-chatting with me, asking about my life. So we walked to the surgery room, to the OR. I got in the bed. I met the anesthesiologist, who was phenomenal. I've never met a bad anesthesiologist, honestly. They've always been nice. My dad always says it's because they're the highest paid profession with the biggest liability. So they can afford to be mean, and they're happy because they make a lot of money, which might be true. I don't know. If any anesthesiologists are watching this, let me know. Is that true? But yeah, so I met my anesthesiologist. They explained the entire process. They're very nice. They sit with you. Literally, they sit right next to you the entire surgery. It's really cool. It's like you have a little friend there. And I met him. He explained everything they were going to do. The first preferred method of anesthesiology for a C-section is a spinal tap, which is like a one-time dose, just a one-time thing. They insert a needle into a space in your spine. It's a large needle. I didn't look at it, but it's a large needle because I've Googled it. And they, once they find the right spot, they insert the anesthesia, and it numbs you from the breastbone down, which you only, so from here down, you're numb. The only thing you have feeling of is your arms, hands, and your neck and your head. Nothing else. Not your stomach, not your breast, obviously not your legs and your feet. So when it was time for the anesthesiologist to to start the process, I had to sit on the edge of the hospital bed. By the way, your spouse or your care partner is not allowed to be in the room at this time. So they have to sit in a little private room, which I've never seen, but Alex said that it's like a little bitty box he sits in. He just has to sit there and wait until they come get him. So it's just you, which is kind of scary because it's already scary getting a giant needle put in your back, and then your support person is not there. It makes it even scarier. So the anesthesiologist, he inserted the needle, and it actually took him like 3 or 4 times. So I was getting scared because if the spinal tap does not take, then they try the epidural. And if the epidural does not take, then they put you to sleep. They put you under. And I really did not want to be put under. So I was getting kind of scared that if for some reason it wasn't going to take, and eventually I would have to be put under and put to sleep. And that is one of my worst fears. I have always been afraid of the possibility of being put to sleep. It just freaks me out. I don't want to ever not know what's going on with my body. But the spinal tap eventually took. It was uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie to you. you feel pressure, borderline a small amount of pain. It's not like when you're screaming in pain, but you feel something when they're doing the spinal tap. The nurse in front of me, she just hugged me the whole time, and I just like kind of laid on her chest because you have to lean over. So I laid on her chest. She talked me through it. She talked to me about my baby and my dog and what this baby and everything like that. So just, you know, she was magical, and I'm very appreciative that she kept me calm. So once the spinal tap took, your legs feel like you're stepping into a jacuzzi. It feels like a very warm sensation. Your legs just get very warm and gooey. They put your legs on the bed before they put too heavy. Then they insert the Foley catheter, so you can't really even feel them inserting the catheter because you've already gotten a spinal tap. And within 3 to 5 minutes, you can't feel any part of your body besides your arms. So you're on the table. They bring your spouse back in, and they start surgery. The anesthesiologist literally tells you everything that's going on, or at least they should. At least they're supposed to, I believe. Everybody who I know who's had a C-section, the anesthesiologist is there telling you everything that's going on during the surgery. There's a big drape up to about right here, so you can't see anything because that would freak most people out to see their insides being cut open. So you can't see anything. You're just honestly just laying there because as they're cutting through the layers of muscle, which is, I think it's 8 layers that they cut through. You can't really feel anything. Obviously you're numb. Some people said they could feel like tingling, but my anesthesiologist hooked me up because I couldn't feel anything. I just was laying there talking to my husband and my anesthesiologist, like nothing. And then all of a sudden they'll warn you after about 5 to 10 minutes, they'll say, okay, you're gonna feel a lot of pressure, which is them pushing, pulling, tugging to get the baby out. And it is a lot of pressure. You feel an immense amount of pressure. It's not pain because you've had a spinal tap, but you do feel an immense amount of pressure in your stomach and your groin of them pulling and tugging to get the baby out. And you, to the point where you're rocking back and forth because they're snatching it out. Like they're being rough. They're not gentle in there. So my body was rocking back and forth, feeling them tug to try to get this baby out. But again, I never felt pain, but you do feel a lot of pressure. And within a few short seconds after the pressure starts, there's a baby in the room crying. And you have a baby. And that is how a C-section is performed. And it's such a short process, but it feels, you know, it feels long while you're laying there. But honestly, it's minutes. It doesn't take long to have a C-section. So after they take the baby out, they make sure that he or she cries. They bring them to you and your spouse, and you guys get to see them. And obviously, you can't really hold them or do much because you're laying there and you have no feeling of anything but your arms. But they do put them right next to your face, which is great. And they do let your care partner hold them and bring them to you and take pictures. And as they take the baby away to get cleaned up and weighed and measured and make sure that they're okay, the doctors are still on your body pushing to try to get, number 1, for your uterus to contract, and number 2, they have to get the placenta out, which with vaginal birth will naturally come after the baby. With a C-section, obviously it needs to be pushed and pulled out. So they push and pull again to get the placenta out, and then they push down on your uterus to try to get it to start contracting to let your body know that the baby is no longer in you. So after they do that, they start stitching you back up. It takes about a half hour or so for them to stitch you back up and apply the dressings. After the anesthesia, it's very normal to get the chills, and it's also very normal to get nauseous. With my firstborn, I did get nauseous and I vomited on the table. So I was very clear to my anesthesiologist that I did not want to go through that again. So I made him closely monitor my blood pressure because usually the nausea is from your blood pressure dropping, which is normal after anesthesia. Guys, anesthesia. Why do I keep calling it anesthesia? I don't know. Anesthesia. is usually very normal for your blood pressure to drop, which can cause nausea, lightheadedness, all of that. So I made him monitor my blood pressure very closely, and he gave me medication to increase it when it was getting too low, so to prevent me from being nauseous, and it worked out perfectly. I did not feel a thing. I did not feel nauseous at all, lightheaded at all. It was great. So after surgery is done, surgery takes in total about an hour. But the majority of it takes longer for them to stitch you back up than it takes for them to cut you open and get the baby out. The baby's out quickly, then you stitch back up. After surgery is over, I'm looking to see. Okay, after surgery is over, they take you to a recovery room. They take you, baby, and your care partner to the recovery room. You have to stay there for an hour. They monitor your blood pressure. So there's 2 nurses, one for you, one for baby. They monitor your blood pressure. They monitor your incision to make sure it's not busting open, and they monitor baby to make sure baby's not in distress from the surgery. You stay there for an hour. If and when everything goes well, they take you to mother baby, which is the room that you'll be staying in for your rest of your stay. The nurses come in there. If you intend to breastfeed, that is when they try to get you to latch. Actually, they try to get you to latch in recovery if you're up to it and if baby is awake. My baby was knocked out. He fell asleep as soon as they put him on my chest, so we just let him sleep until we got to mother baby. When we got to mother baby, we woke him up, tried to get him to latch. He had a beautiful latch. Right away, start eating. It was no problem. So once you're mother baby, your CNAs or your patient care techs, whatever, different hospitals call them different things. They come in very frequently to check your incision, to clean the blood, because the uterus has started to contract, so your vagina will be bleeding. So they do have, and you have no feeling of your legs, so you can't clean. So they do come clean you up very frequently to get all the blood off of you, change your pad, change your diaper, change whatever it is you got on down there. They keep you nice and clean. It takes about 4 to 6 hours for me, for my spinal tap. It took about maybe 4 hours for me to start getting feeling in my legs, but it took almost 8 hours for me to have complete control to where I can stand up. You stay on the IV fluids for about 12 to 24 hours after your surgery. Sorry, I keep clicking this pen, some habit. They stay on the IV fluids about 12 to 24 hours after your surgery, depending on which fluids you're on and your doctor and blah, 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 blah. So they kept me on the IV. You still were unable to eat. They put me on a liquid diet, so I was able to have ice chips, water, broth, and Jello, which I was grateful for because I was so hungry, but I was ready to have food. You stay on the liquid diet for 24 hours. They check to make sure that you are passing gas. They don't make you have to poop because it takes days to poop for most people after a C-section, but they do want to make sure you're passing gas. They do want to make sure that you're able to stand up and walk to the bathroom, and your Foley catheter usually comes out the next day. And then they give you 6 hours to pee on your own to make sure that everything's working down there, and they keep it out. If you don't pee on your own, I believe they put it back in and they do another trial a few hours later. As far as the pain, because I know that that's the main concern that most people have when it comes to a C-section, it kicks in its hardest around 24 to 48 hours after your spinal tap, because it's completely worn off. When that thing wears off, my best advice can be is to stay on your pain pills. If you have something that's scheduled every 6 hours, 5.5 hours, ask the nurse for it. Like, stay on it. Don't let the pain get so bad to where it's uncontrolled. Stay on your pain medication. The pain does get more tolerable. Don't worry about it. It gets better. But stay on your pain pills. That's the best advice I can give. And within a week, the pain is significantly less. By the time you're home, within a week, it is completely different than it was right after. When you're going through it, it feels like you're going to be in pain forever, but you're not. It's only a few days, and it gets better literally every single day. All I can say, I hope that this helped. I hope that this answered any questions. If you have any additional questions, leave them in the comments. good luck. You're gonna get through it. And I will see you guys in the next video.